you know me, and we got another great, powerful show with another really powerful, influential guest. This brother was first called to my attention because he was nominated by his son, I believe, he'll correct me if I'm wrong, as one of our BE Modern Men of Distinction in 2019. Many of you know that we launched a campaign in 2015 to recognize Black men of excellence who weren't necessarily just athletes and entertainers, but who are making an impact in every walk of life, in every community, and every profession. And this brother is really an epitome of that. And we're going to talk about why he was named, but also what he's accomplished since then, which is why I really wanted to book him for Beyond the Hype. Welcome to the show, Gerald A. Moore Sr. What's up, bro?
Pleasure to be on the show. I watch your show all the time, and it's with gratitude that I'm here, man. I appreciate it.
Well, let's go back to to the beginning. You are head of an organization called Mission Fulfilled 2030. That's why you're rocking that shirt. And
absolutely,
just so y'all know that I pay attention to my guests. Gerald sent me shirts for his mission, and I got my Mission Fulfilled shirt wearing for this interview. But talk to me about what Mission Fulfilled is all about, because that kind of was the initial reason why we really thought you were a great representative of our BE Modern Man campaign.
Well, Mission Fulfilled was created to inspire, educate, and activate 100,000 young Black males in tech. And what preceded Mission Fulfilled was the Tech School for Black Boys. So in 2017, at the end of 2017, I launched the Tech School for Black Boys, which was basically started from me coaching my AAU basketball team and teaching tech to the boys after class. So it got to a point where a lot of the parents wanted to include their neighbors, their relatives in the program. So I needed to expand it. So what I did is I created the Tech School for Black Boys, which was a virtual program, which today everyone is doing virtual education. But at the time I launched it, no one was really approaching virtual education like that, especially something that was targeting young Black males. And so I was able to increase my reach. And when you guys got a hold of it, my son had reached out. I had educated probably well over 200 boys at that point. And just basic technical stuff like basic coding, how to basically create a small tech company. So we could kind of move our boys from being consumers of technology to developers of technology. And when I was nominated Black Enterprise Modern Man, I was very fortunate to meet Sean Dove, who runs the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. So upon having a conversation with Sean Dove, he said to me, he was like, what you're doing in this space is kind of really awesome. And I would like to see you roll it into the nonprofit space. And I thought that, I was actually having trouble getting into the schools. Like I was reaching out to school districts who, some of them don't even have a tech program. And I was saying, hey, I have this tech program, which would be awesome for your young Black males, as Black men make up less than 5% of the high tech and STEM workforce.
Yes.
And looking out to the future, it's predicted that we'll have 1 million shortage here in the US by 2030 of digital and high tech and STEM talent.
Right.
So it kind of made sense for me to roll out what I was doing. And then this past October last year, so we're 1 year in, I actually launched Mission Fulfilled 2030 and got my 501c3 as a certified nonprofit organization. So today, here we are 1 year in.
Yeah, since then, you've really been on a roll. And one of the things I think you've achieved in a fairly short period of time, well, let me back up a little bit for our audience. We know that the tech industry has been in a lot of pressure to diversify. And of course, one of the things that they pointed to is pipeline issues. Not enough young Black people in tech, not enough of them being brought into the industry in earlier ages, so that by the time they get to the point of the hiring, the pool is thin. Now, there's debate about whether that's credible or not. We'll leave it there. The truth is that a lot of the great tech programs focusing on young people either have not focused on Black boys. You have great programs. Girls Who Code is the one that really comes to mind. Just amazing programs, and they're dealing with both the gender issue and the race issue in terms of underrepresentation. But outside of All Star Code, Christina Lewis's organization, there's really not a serious leading organization that I know of, that really is targeting Black boys and young Black males for this industry and really getting them into the pipeline. And I'm going to circle later into the conversation about what this means in the current environment with, Black Lives Matter and the issues around opportunities for Black people and Black males in particular. But talk to me about your own personal experience getting into the tech industry, and how that shaped and informed your desire to pursue this path in your life.
Well, the organization and from the Tech School from Black Boys and Mission Fulfilled is basically based on my story. So traditionally, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be here, because when we go back to my past, I kind of met the mold of what the current narrative is of the young Black male, and the fact that by 12, I had my first police encounter. By 14, I got expelled for school for fighting. At 15, I actually did the Scared Straight program in Rochester, New York. By 17, I had my first child. I had full custody of my son at 17 years old. And then a switch flipped, right? Mm-hmm. Because I knew at that moment, I had a father at home. I had a mother at home. It was rocky. And, my father suffered from alcoholism and, drug abuse. But I knew at the moment my son was born that everything I did from that point forward would impact what he would be able to do in his life. So I graduated from high school with a 1.69 GPA.
Whoa.
But I was an engineer at 10. I was an engineer at 10 because what do engineers do? Engineers build things, engineers design. I was doing that at 10 years old. Everything electronic I had to open it up. I had to go inside it and see what it did and put it back together. So that made me an engineer. In school, I suffered the same thing that Black boys go through. I never had a Black male educator until I got to college because I went to Norfolk State University, which is an HBCU.
Right.
Had I gone to a predominantly white university, I probably wouldn't have never had a Black male educator. Secondly, I wouldn't have even gotten into any of the predominantly white institutions' engineering program. But Norfolk State University had an open enrollment policy at the time, and I was able to test into their engineering department. So once I did that, I was able to test into their engineering department, graduated in 4 years, and then I went back home. And this is interesting. The first salaried position that I had out of college, I resigned on the first day. And the reason I resigned on the first day, because I had gotten an internship at a company in Rochester, New York, where I'm from, and worked there. They brought me in as a technician, and worked as a senior technician over the summer with 2 white male counterparts from other universities. And over that time, I created my first summer. I actually created this text fixture that actually saved the company $250,000. I was told by one of the Asian engineers. Mm-hmm. When I came back and I graduated, we had to take this engineering aptitude test. And my 2 white male counterparts, who they were both bringing in, they told all 3 of us, we worked together for a summer. I got to know them really well. We were friends. And we took this engineering aptitude test and, took the test, got my offer, signed my offer, went out to lunch with my counterparts, and we were talking about the test. So they told us the test would determine where we were placed in the company. So I found out that I scored 20 points higher than both of my white male counterparts on the test. They became engineers. I became a senior technician. Now, I was happy with that until I realized they became engineers. First of all, I scored 20 points higher than them. Secondly, I saved the company $250,000. Their salaries was $15,000 higher than mine and an additional week vacation. So I resigned day one.
Take a pin in that, because there's some, you're right, your story so echoes not only the experience of Black boys in the education system, with the experiences of Black men in the job market. So already you're testing it, or your GPA was low, and that could have automatically screened you out of possibilities. But for your recognition of your engineering skills and your ability to get into Norfolk State, and again, shout out to HBCUs, because that's what they do. That's the value to our country. We recognize the value that other institutions often don't recognize. They kind of test to screen people out, versus HBCUs going out of way to screen talent in and to get them through. So, but so many Black boys, so many Black people, well, Black boys in particular, the talent is lost because they are basically deemed, really basically uneducatable, despite whatever skills and talents they may show, when it's really maybe the education system isn't designed to identify and develop those skills and talents. And you made it through the filter. Then you, like you said, the other thing every Black professional in America knows, has found out, I actually over-index in terms of capability, but for some reason I'm under-indexing in terms of salary, position, the speed of my promotion. Again, it's a textbook case of why the challenges that we face in achieving equity in the workplace, equity in an industry like technology, where the assumption is, well, you should be the junior person no matter how you perform. And to our audience, wherever you start in terms of salary, if somebody starts ahead of you, the chance of you catching up to them over time is low. So your starting salary is very, very important.
Absolutely.
So fast forward, you're now, talk about the you're a security engineer, right?
Yeah, I'm a cybersecurity engineer.
Cybersecurity engineer.
And actually, so as you know, I now run Mission Fulfilled 2030 full time. I actually resigned from my position as a cybersecurity engineer 4 months ago. And I just felt it was time. I just felt that, over time, I can't do the work that I would like to do for young Black males and still maintain a full-time job. And I kind of realized I was listening to a quote from Dr. Miles Monroe. And he said, a man's job is not his work, because a man could be fired from his job. A man's work is his purpose, what gives him purpose. Mission Fulfilled gives me purpose. I get up every day and everything I work on has a purpose. It has a goal. There's an initiative behind it. There's a vision behind it, where after 20 years of working in corporate, as and I've worked for some of the biggest consulting firms in the world. Like I've worked for your Accentures, I worked for SAIC, I've worked for, some really big companies, and, I was able to get a six-figure salary really young. But when I look back, how am I giving back, right? I'm actually complicit. I was actually complicit in the problem that we have with Black males, right? Because what do we do when we see success, right? We move out of our neighborhoods into what's an acceptable neighborhood. So, I kind of lived in a predominantly white neighborhood, and I wasn't able to impact young Black males like I would have liked to. But what I did, I've always coached. So I've always coached and went back and given back in that way. But just over time, I'm like, and when looking at, if Black males make up less than 5% of the high tech and STEM workforce, then Black males like me, who actually have the potential to go into tech, never make it, because how it's portrayed going through the school system is that, when you get in high school, in order to be an engineer, you have to take pre-calculus, take AP physics, take AP chemistry, all of these things that are really not necessary or required. Second to the fact that none of our public schools have any computer scientists or engineers in their buildings. So how can you say that you're creating computer scientists or engineers or technicians when you don't have any in your buildings, right? And then taking teachers and sending them to a code.org seminar does not turn them into somebody who can innovate and give the type of energy that I would give to get a young Black man into tech and really get them to work. So what I do with Mission Fulfilled is, not only do we create programs for young Black males so they can participate, but all our programs, all the classes that we create are delivered by Black men. Wow. So we have to attack that, because we know that representation matters.
Yes.
Right? Representation matters. You mentioned that, there's no programs that really focus on Black boys in technology. There's about 5 or 6 programs focused on Black girls to get into the tech and STEM space. There's 4 just focused on Black girls alone that are national organizations.
Yes.
I may be one of the only ones focused on tech for Black boys on the national level, where I'm impacting boys nationally, not just locally. So, in that vein, and then we can go into the fact that we can talk about the inclusion and equity piece and what's happening right now in our country, where you have all these companies saying, hey, we definitely need to look at the equity and inclusion piece, but it's all talk. The company that I left, that I resigned for, they started their company in 1970, between 70 and 73. When I got at the company, I was looking to participate in their recruitment of, Black males or just minorities in general, because I'm usually the one they call if they're going to bring a Black guy. Oh, we got to put Gerald in and let Gerald interview him because he's the Black guy, right?
Right.
So I started looking at what types of programs they had to recruit. And I saw that they had an HBCU program. Company started in 1973 or somewhere in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't start an HBCU recruiting program until 2018.
Wow.
2018.
Wow.
And then when I reached out, and this is a huge company, you're talking about a major med tech company, 25,000 employees, a global company. So when I reached out to see who was running that HBCU program, nobody was running it. Then I reached out to some of the employees who had been there for a while, and they said, well, they created a deck a couple years ago, and then they sent that deck out, but nobody actually runs the program. There's no one staffed to actually run it.
So it just kind of existed on paper.
It just existed on paper.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I wrote an internal letter to the company basically stating that, this is what diversity and inclusion looks like for me, right? Because typically as an engineer, and most Black men can tell this story, that we're the only ones in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And, we spend our lives code switching so that we can make others feel welcome and, to maintain our roles. And it's really hard, your glass ceiling is coming, at some point, that ceiling is coming. But I wrote this letter, which kind of talked about, what my day is like in their environment.
Right.
And we had an internal Yammer site, which is like social media for jobs, right? So you have your internal Yammer. So I tagged the CEO of the company, head of HR, and their D&I staff.
Right.
Well, that letter had gotten the most engagement in that company's Yammer history, so they had to address it.
Mm-hmm.
So they brought me on a panel to talk with the CEO. The head of the D&I reached out to me, and they actually put me on a panel to kind of address, the issues that we have, and basically how do you discuss race in the workplace, right? So my book, Motivate Black Boys. So my book, Motivate Black Boys, was an Amazon bestseller, right? The book was an Amazon bestseller, but I never told anybody at work that I was an author. I never told anybody at work because I knew it would bring dissension, and I just go to work, right? Because they got to a point where I was like, you know what? I really don't have the desire to fight through what the next level of management would be. And I have this other mission that I'm on. So I never really talked about the book. So there's this African woman that worked at my job, and she had 2 sons. So, I brought her 2 books and I signed them. And she was like, Gerald, we got to go tell everybody, because she doesn't understand, like, she's from Africa. So she doesn't understand racism like we know racism, because she grew up with Black people. Like, she doesn't racism isn't the same for her,
Totally different dynamic.
right?
Yeah.
So I was like, listen, just keep it on the low because, I just don't want to discuss it. Mind you, the fact that I had already reached out to the company because they actually was given time and made donations to Black Girls Code and some of these other organizations. And when I asked about, okay, hey, I have this boys organization, can I, can we discuss? Oh no, we don't want any of that.
Wow.
Right? So some of the engineers I work with found out about the book, right? So they actually purchased the book. More so just to, the book has some of my life details that they don't know anything about. All they know is Gerald must have grew up in the burbs and he got an engineering degree and now he works alongside of us and he's a nice guy.
Right.
Right. One of the guys said the book's title is racist. Motivate Black boys, how to prepare Black boys in STEM. So we had a conversation and I said, hey, I have this organization. I have the tech school for Black boys as well. That's racist. So I asked the guy, I said, is it not a fact that every major university's engineering program in this country was created for white men and white men only?
Right.
Fact. So me trying to educate some young Black males in technology, you should not be offended and you should actually reach out to support. Actually, right. But this is what I did not want, right? Because I just go to work and I know again, that
so many African Americans, so many people of color, and again, now we're at an inflection point as a nation where these conversations around race are starting to happen. But other people have been on the show, banking executives, just every industry that says, before it was almost not worth the energy. Like, I'm just trying to get my job done. I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm just trying to get home. And so on the one hand, there's certain things you want to address because it needs to be addressed. On the other hand, it can be exhausting and
right.
You want to make your living. So that's a great time to get your thoughts on where we are right now. Obviously we're still wrestling with a huge pandemic. It's an election year. We're talking about, we're still dealing with the fallout of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, hashtag. And then now we have this window of opportunity that people have been talking about all year, that finally we can have this conversation about social inequity, racial inequity, the need, and like you said earlier, you got companies announcing every other day, we are earmarking $25 million to invest in Black business. We're earmarking, $1 million for this, $100 million for that. And the $25 million question that we've been asking all year is, one, how long does it last? And two, to what degree is this are these pledges of investment going to ultimately end up in the communities and impacting the people, and in your case, Black boys, that they need to impact? In other words, everybody, it's like being in church. Everybody can stand up and say, I pledge, $2,500 for the building fund. There's the pledge, and then there's the actual payment on the pledge. And we at Black Enterprise and others are like, we won't know until 2021, maybe even 2022, whether that money ever is really invested and if it actually gets to the people in the community that supposedly it was designed to address in order to challenge and change some of the racial inequities. So where are you in terms of, now you are a full-time nonprofit leader, you're well established, and I do want you to touch on a little later about what you did with the Chromebooks, but let me come back to that later. What do you see as, now you are running a nonprofit that obviously offers a solution to corporations, whether in the tech space or out of the tech space, who say, we want to be part of the solution. We want to support programs that's going to help change this equation in terms of getting Black boys, Black men, and changing those numbers over time. I mean, it seems like Mission Fulfillment 360 is an obvious answer to the question, but where is the feedback you're getting so far early on in terms of companies taking advantage of that?
Well, I think one of the things that has happened, and again, this could be a short window, is that we can actually have the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So you have these companies that have jumped out there and they've made these pledges, but like you said, we have to look into 2021 to see if these pledges will be a consistent line item in their budgets, right? I don't think that's going to be the case, because as you start to do the research, the company that says, oh, we're gonna earmark 100 million to this solution. Well, if you look at how they're really rolling it out, that 100 million is subject to so many variables that it probably will never hit us in a way that where we can make a dent in the income to wealth ratio. Secondly, having the conversation and having the pipeline are two different things, because what companies are looking at, and my mission fulfilled 2030, in the realm of tech, 10 years is a short period of time. Companies that are looking to make an impact, when they look at me, my 8-year-olds is the next tech workforce, because in 10 years, they'll be 18. Right. My 10-year-olds will be 20. So for me, that's the next tech workforce. When I speak with companies, well, what are you doing now? Who do you have ready now? Well, Black men make up less than 5% of the high tech and STEM workforce. Black women are in college at 20-1 over Black males. So if you hired every Black male in engineering right now, we would still be at 5%. If you hired all of them, right, we would still be at 5%. So when we talk about creating pipeline for future, I'm who you should be engaging, because I'm developing the future. I'm developing the next 10 years, because if we continue to do what we're doing now, we just continue and stay with that 5%. So even if we look toward the future, we're still 5%. And then when we look at diversity and inclusion, we have this other issue, because women are in college at 20-1, of course, there are going to be more women. And I deal with the tech space. Right. There are going to be more women in computer science and engineering than Black men coming out. So are you trying to solve your diversity and inclusion problem by hiring exclusively Black women, right? Which is another issue. And I think that we're seeing that. I've seen a lot of that. Like, I've seen the growth in Black women in tech in my last 20 years over Black men. And there's a numbers game, one, but then I think that a lot of these companies feel like, we can just solve our diversity and inclusion with women, because some of our women traditionally, women won't ask for a salary increase.
That's true.
Right? Women won't ask for a salary increase, where men are looked at slightly differently. So a Black woman will be taken over a Black man in most cases. So when a lot of these companies, when they're trying to deal with their diversity and inclusion, you have to look at that too. So you can't just say, okay, well, we just take Black women and now we have our diversity and inclusion problem solved. So we have that part of the issue.
It sounds like if a company is serious, like if they want the quick, fast solution, then it's let's fill up these positions, let's hire right now and get the right numbers. But it's not going to have any long-term impact on changing the representation in the long run.
Right.
So to be serious about changing representation in the long run, they have to support programs like yours that does target the young person who's maybe in elementary school or maybe in middle school early enough where they can get turned on to the industry, learn about the industry. You also do a big thing about making sure they are matched with mentors. You talked about the
absolutely
your classes so they can see what they can be. So that by the time like you said, 10 years from now the competing Black men against Black women is not as big a competition, because the pipeline itself is more diverse.
Absolutely.
So it's an interesting point because I think it applies to other industries. I think it's going to be tempting and maybe somewhat inevitable for companies to use that money to get the quick fix solution for now.
Right.
To get the right picture now.
Right.
And that may look good and you'll maybe get some kudos and maybe you deserve some credit for it. But I get your point. We got to talk about the longer term 10 years out solution that's going to make this really rise, so that we're not just back here with the same situation,
Right.
10 years from now. I don't want to give up all the time to this, but talk to me about some of the things that you've done since we recognized you, which is again the reason I wanted to invite you on the show. I want you to talk about just everything you've done. I'm particularly interested in your work with getting technology into the hands of schools/students from communities that don't have it. And just to frame this conversation, it's been an ongoing debate, even with the current debate over coronavirus stimulus, around broadband and internet access. Now that so much of the population is being forced to try to educate their kids from home. And what they're finding out is significant urban and rural communities that don't even have broadband access. 30% of Black households don't have broadband access. Or if they have broadband access, they don't have the devices that you need to do the work. And so closing that gap, which was a disparity that already existed, just like all the other disparities that COVID revealed, that disparity is now existing as people are trying to educate their kids from home. And if you're in a poor urban community and you don't have access to broadband or access to computers, you are basically cut off from going to school in this environment. And now you talk about, I want you to tell the story, it's been covered by media outlets in addition to Black Enterprise, about what you did in terms of addressing that particular issue for at least one community.
A couple things. When COVID first hit, I already had a learning management system launched. So when COVID first hit and school shut down, I kind of pivoted what I was doing in my live courses, and I launched the online computer science program for Black boys, exclusively for Black boys. I ended up with 300 kids in that program. I ended up with kids all over the world in that program. I had about 4 kids from Canada, about 4 or 5 kids from the UK, and about 10 kids from Africa in this program. Mm. Then as things went on, I was talking to schools and talking to teachers. And at the end of the previous school year, when school came back this year, I was working with some educators, and I had an educator reach out to me and said, hey, school has started. I got a class of 2nd graders, and half my class don't have equipment. Like, they don't have the Chromebooks necessary, and the school district doesn't have them. So school in Baltimore, I actually got them 10 Chromebooks. So I got them 10 Chromebooks, and there was some media attached to that. And then I started getting a lot of incoming requests. So I launched the Chromebooks for Kids initiative. Mm-hmm. And through that initiative, I was able to raise about $25,000. I got 4 or 5 companies, corporate sponsorships. And to date, we have serviced about 50 children around the country, actually. So we started in Baltimore. We served about 20 kids in Baltimore. We've served kids in Texas. We've served kids in Chicago. We've served kids in New York and Atlanta. And we continue that program. Like, that's going to be part of what I do, even though Mission Fulfilled focuses on Black boys. Like, I still think we have an obligation to serve all children, regardless of race or color. And that's something that I think we'll continue to do every year. I've reached out to companies like Verizon to see if we can get, again, access. Kids don't have broadband access, so to see how we can partner with them to get hotspots. Of course, I'm still waiting to hear back from them, right. But proposal is out. So Verizon, if you're out there, please contact me. We're doing great things for kids. So we did Chromebooks for kids. And then I just launched the Technology to Manhood lecture series. And what the Technology to Manhood lecture series is, it's a showcase of Black men in tech to Black boys, because again, representation matters. Yeah. So I'm reaching out to a lot of our major companies. I've had some talks with JP Morgan Chase. I've had some talks with Accenture. I've had some talks with Booz Allen. All of you need to get back to me, because this could be a great part of your diversity and inclusion initiatives. Because what this is, if you have Black men in your organization, it gives you an opportunity to showcase them and give them a voice, which also for your company, it's a great internal look, because now those men have an opportunity to speak. They have an opportunity to get showcased throughout your organizations, and gives you an opportunity to maybe promote them, because a lot of us kind of remain invisible when we're with these companies. So the Technology to Manhood lecture series is a great opportunity that I'm trying to partner with a lot of our bigger organizations, our bigger tech companies. I've had some conversations with Micron Technology and trying to get funding and create partnerships where they could keep us abreast of what's the latest technology, so we can be training our boys to the latest technology. And lastly, I've launched, I got a partnership with the CompTIA Academy. CompTIA is one of the foremost practitioners for IT certification. So I got a partnership with them, and I launched a pilot of the IT fundamentals curriculum because I think there's what we call the new opportunity for Black boys that we're rolling out. And considering that, you know, Black boys graduate at a 50% clip across the country, and out of that 50%, probably half of them are C students. So none of them are going to truly have the opportunity to go to college and participate in a computer science or engineering program. So what we're doing is we implemented our IT fundamentals program, and I believe that every young Black male should graduate with a minimum IT certification so that we can still work in the space and work our way up. So how I see it is the IT fundamentals certificate kind of qualifies a young man to go into somebody's help desk or low-level IT position. And these positions across the country are typically $40,000 to $50,000 opportunities with this certificate, depending on where you are in the country. Like, I'm from Rochester, New York. The average household income in Rochester, New York is $40,000. So if I'm graduating a young man with this certification and he can roll into somebody's IT department through partnerships we create, he's already making the annual household income for that particular city, or, you know, depending on where he is. So if he's not going to college,
capacity.
Right, if he's not going to college and he can roll into that, he's in a situation where he's going to make $30,000 to $40,000 a year, where the college freshman is going to be $30,000 to $40,000 in debt. Then we're going to take that kid and we're going to roll him into his Network Plus certification, which qualifies him for about a $50,000 job. He has 2 years experience. Our college sophomore is $100,000 in debt. His junior year, we get him his Security Plus, you know, what would be his junior year, we get him his Security Plus certification, and that brings him up to maybe a $60,000 a year job in cybersecurity or something in security, which is advanced tech. This is where tech is going, where the person in college, they're $150,000 in debt, right? We know that Black males mature a little bit later than our Black females. So now I got a young man who has a few certifications. He's working for a job. He's getting experience, and he gets to be about 22, and they approach him and they say, Gerald, you got 4 certifications. In order for you to move into management, we may need to get you some college. But now the majority of our IT companies, they pay for you to go to college. So now we get a young man, he goes through, he gets certifications. He has 4 years experience. Now he's mature enough to go to college and take advantage of it and be in a position where he doesn't start his life in debt. Like the majority of us, even if we get an engineering degree or advanced STEM degree, we're going to start our life $200,000 in debt. So that may not even be the best opportunity, truly. So we have this IT fundamentals program that I'm looking to partner with companies and say, hey, you know, we're going to train, and some of our boys will go to college, some of them won't. But like me, I'm gonna go back to the story where I got expelled from school. I got expelled from school in the 8th grade for fighting. Going into my 9th grade year, I had a meeting with the school board, and the superintendent just happened to be in the meeting. And my middle school was basically stating, we need to put Gerald in alternative school. He's been suspended. Like, they were looking at my rap sheet, for lack of better words, and he's been suspended so many times. And we're recommending alternative school for him. So the superintendent sat there quiet in the whole meeting, and he looked at my record, and he stopped the meeting and he said, has anybody looked at Mr. Moore's New York State test record? And everybody just shook their head. They were sitting there in silence. Well, Mr. Moore is testing at 12th year, 10th month which means that I virtually tested out of high school coming out of 8th grade. So I believe that we have Black males that are falling through the cracks all across the country. They're not being recognized for their talent and their gifts. And that's what we're attacking. I'm going back to get those Black men, young Black boys who came up like me, who have the talent and have the gifts, but they're being overlooked because of whatever their situation is in their schools, whatever their situations are in their households, they're being overlooked.
Bro,
so and that's what we do.
You laid out exactly why we recognize you as a BE Model Man. You actually, all the things you've done since then, and that statement alone just speaks to, it's the Black Enterprise mission, the Black Men Excel mission. We just had our Black Men Excel conference, but that's what it's really all about. Listen, we got a couple of minutes left. Tell our audience, one, how they can engage with Mission Fulfilled 2030, whether they just want to support it as an individual, or again, you named a couple of companies you're looking to partner with. And what's next for you? What we should be looking for you, especially as we get into 2021. Hopefully, we'll be emerging from whatever we're going through to some degree with regard to the COVID economy. But how can people follow up and learn more about your nonprofit, and what should we be looking for next?
To follow up with us and to get more information on Mission Fulfilled 2030, you can catch us at www.missionfulfilled2030.org. We're also Mission Fulfilled 2030 on Instagram. You can contact me through the contact at missionfulfilled2030.org. You can also contact me on LinkedIn. And, we're looking to partner with companies that have a genuine interest and really creating that future pipeline, right? I had a meeting with the Obama administration and the My Brother's Keeper program. And they said, if we increase the employment rate of Black males 2%, we increase the GDP of the country $320 billion.
Wow.
So it behooves us as a nation to support programs like mine for everyone, right? Especially in the diversity and inclusion space. So I would suggest we have a really great program. We're rolling out, we're putting together our programs for 2021 right now. We're looking to create after-school programs in various cities. My home city, Rochester, New York, I have a couple kids in a program there, and I'm looking to expand the work I do there. We're based out of the DC metro area, but we're working because of the digital landscape which we live. We have programming where we can serve kids all across the country. We have our own learning management system. We're picking up Black men from all over the world who will actually be delivering content to our students in their various fields. So it's a great opportunity for, if you're a company, to partner with us and showcase your Black men in tech, or if you're an individual and you want to support, just go to missionfulfilled.org and hit the donate button. We could definitely use the support. Our goal, 100,000 Black boys in tech, to have touched 100,000 Black boys in tech by 2030, to have 10,000 tech coaches and mentors, Black men in tech, working with our boys, and to have 1,000 companies that we are engaged with that are looking to hire and train and provide us what the latest technology is. And if we can do that successfully, we have an opportunity to increase, put a dent in the income to debt ratio, but also $1 billion to Black communities. If we can have 100,000 Black boys within 5 to 10 years making a 6-figure salary, that's an incremental income to Black communities of $1 billion. Over 10 years, that's income of $10 billion to Black communities. So this can be done, right?
Right.
And we just need a little seed, right? We need a little seed, and I'm in it, and I'm actually just grateful to have the opportunity to be doing it. To be quite honest, considering my background and to be able to give back and you know, the progress that I've had in this short time. Like, you know, we've only been in existence for 1 year, and for some of the companies that have reached out to us, or the foundations that have reached out to us, you know, typically, traditionally, you need to be in business for 2 to 3 years to try and even be in that funding pipeline. So, you know, it's a little difficult for us, but you know, if anybody wants to, I don't even consider myself a flyer. Like, all I do is win.
Right.
So, you know, if you're looking to invest in Mission Fulfilled, you will be a winner. You will be a winner, and you will be a hero to young Black males in putting a dent to the income to wealth gap, and increasing the pipeline for the future of tech.
That's a perfect note to end our conversation, Gerald. Thank you so much for being a guest on Beyond the Hype. We're going to be paying attention, looking for what you do in 2021 and beyond. And just thanks for taking on this mission and making this your purpose, man.
Absolutely. One more thing, Alfred.
Yeah.
I'm a co-author in a new book, When Men Lean In, We All Win, which is an awesome book.
I'm sorry, I talked over you.
When Men Lean In, We All Win, which is an awesome book because it's a redemption stories of Black men and who we really are in our communities. I think that, you know, people don't see, you know, we have this narrative of Black men, but, you know, I'm in this book, and my chapter talks about that I believe that the future of the Black family sits squarely on the shoulders of Black men. And you know, and that's the work, and that's why I'm doing the work I do with Black boys. I have 3 daughters, and the chances that my daughters can marry a man in the mold of their father is probably about 1%. Right? So it behooves me to build up young Black males, and it behooves, you know, you out there to build up young Black males, so we can kind of bring that Black family back together. And so whenmenleanin.com, whenmenleanin.com, it's an awesome book. And again, it's right in line in what I do, and you know,
And
fighting for the Black family.
again with Be Modern Men, Black Men Excel, the Black Enterprise Initiatives. You know, I say all the time, Black men aren't the problem, we're the solution. And we're not going to move forward until we recognize that. We're the solution, not the problem. So listen, man, thanks for being on the show. We know we're going to be talking again soon. And you know, just all good fortune with what you're doing, man. I really believe in it.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I think this is an awesome platform that you're having. And I give thanks to Black Enterprise for launching this platform.
Bet. So that's it, guys. Beyond the Hype, latest episode. Thank you for joining us for this great conversation. See you next time.